Hi guys, so in today's video I want to explain to you how ADA can get to $10 by the peak of the bull run. I don't personally think that altcoin season has really kicked off yet. I think that we've seen a glimpse of what is potential and what's in store for altcoins, but I think we have a lot to look forward to. So just here to jump into my personal story with ADA is that I've been holding ADA for a really long time. I had a friend who told me to buy ADA back in the midst of the 2021 bull run around this range here, and I did. He was telling me about how ADA was doing projects in Africa, how Charles Hoskinson, the co-founder of Ethereum, and how they had an academic approach to the blockchain and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, that kind of sold me, so I ended up buying it, and he was absolutely right. We made money on paper, but what we didn't know was how to take profits. So essentially we've held the bag all the way back down now, not selling it for years, but what I have done during this time is I did more research to understand how Bitcoin cycles work, and I ended up accumulating ADA all the way down for the last couple of years, and now we're starting to see some profit now, which is really, really good to see. But yeah, before we really jump into the core of the video, I just want to explain a disclaimer here. Again, this video is not financial advice. Crypto is volatile and highly risky. No results are guaranteed. This content is for experienced users only, and there's a full legal disclaimer in the description below. So right, just to kind of set the scene of where I think we are at the moment, is that we need to understand the path to altcoin season. So phase one is typically we see Bitcoin absolutely pump and surge, and we have seen that over the last few months. We've seen Bitcoin go first, and we've seen Ethereum lag and altcoins lag even further behind. And what generally happens is, as we see retail, and again in this cycle we're seeing the inflows of ETF, we're seeing Bitcoin come up, and what happens is once the big players start to take profits, they then look to allocate their position somewhere else, and in this case Ethereum, which is why we've now seen Bitcoin go first and then Ethereum start to follow, like we've seen literally in the last 2 months. Ethereum just starts to come up and kind of get closer to that local all-time high, and again closer to the previous all-time high that we saw in the last run. Again, the same thing happens. Ethereum, there's a talk about the flippening, or Ethereum's going to overtake Bitcoin, but again, I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen this cycle, but just as a kind of foundation, we will then see people take profits from Ethereum, start to flow them into altcoins, which are going to be the large caps, the ADAs, the Trons, the Sols, the Dogecoins, etc. And then in theory we'll see them go, and then after that, meme coin season, altcoin season, lower mark caps, anything really with a dog or whatever it is, will just absolutely pump. It's a crazy world. So again, we have started to see Bitcoin's momentum start to take a little bit of a downturn. So we've seen that over the last, since the start of the year we had a massive upturn, and then now we're starting to see it dump a little bit, and simultaneously we've seen the inverse for Ethereum. We've seen Ethereum had a massive downturn and start to pick up some more dominance, and this is really, really positive, because this means that altcoins are now starting to receive more inflows of money because people are starting to take profits, and like I mentioned before, ETH is getting close to the all-time high. But you might be asking, why does this matter? What's this got to do with ADA? You have to understand, guys, ETH is the biggest indicator for altcoin season, in my opinion. We want ETH's price to go up even if you don't hold it, because it's the biggest altcoin, it's the first one, it kind of sets the roadmap for all the other altcoins, because ETH is one cycle ahead of the majority of these altcoins. So knowing this information, how can we prepare, guys? Well, we need to understand what's going on with ADA at the moment, how it's developed during the bear market, as well as the economic environment, such as the interest rates, where we are in the business cycle, are we in a recession, blah blah blah, all these kind of things are really important. And I also want to clarify, ADA's $3 outrageous price last run was primarily driven by speculation, and a lot of the things on the roadmap hadn't even really begun yet. So I just wanted to dive into a couple of things about ADA which I found quite interesting. So since 2017, ADA's been in the top cryptos, like continuously. It's been in there all the way from 2017 to 2025. We've seen Cardano in the top 3 in this example here, and now Cardano's in the top 10. So this basically indicates to me that there's an incredibly large and resilient community, and people have a lot of faith in ADA, which is amazing to see. Another important thing is ADA's total value locked, the TVL. So this essentially means all the money that's locked up and people are holding ADA. So, for example, this just shows that people aren't selling ADA. If we see the TVL of something go up, it means that people have faith in the project, they believe in it long term, and they can see the project doing really well. So just wanted to share an example here. We can see the 8th of July 2024 sitting at 190 million, and then we go to the 8th of July 2025, 254 million. So it's a massive uplift there, which again is good as we're preparing for the peak of the bull run. Again, another amazing thing some of you may or may not know is that ADA is now having major real world adoption, such as the Dubai police are using ADA as part of their functionality, the way that they operate, and I think that's crazy. Again, you think somewhere like Dubai, as kind of how technologically advanced as they are, as strict as they are, would be relying on something like Cardano if they didn't think that it was safe, and especially things for the police, that's really, really important. Again, another massive thing we're seeing is the digital assets stockpile. Again, we've seen the likes of Donald Trump talk about ADA, which is quite funny because there's not really many other altcoins that people are talking and a president is actively promoting an altcoin, which is hilarious. But again, they see the use case, they see the value, and they're stockpiling ADA, which is incredible for the price and incredible for the people holding. Obviously, they see a real use case here. I want to also say here that there's been a hell of a lot of negative FUD over the last few years holding ADA. It's been quite difficult, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of that. So you mainly see things like ADA's a ghost chain. ADA's chain is flatlined so long, it's a ghost chain, doesn't work, it needs to be revived, etc., etc. I had to cross out the name of this guy here, but look at this, why you should sell all your ADA. And what I find quite funny about this is that a lot of people here are doing this to pump their own bags. So you might see someone on here just saying, oh, you shouldn't buy ADA, it's a ghost chain, blah blah blah, and then simultaneously they're promoting a completely other random coin or a meme coin. But again, you need to kind of take a lot of this with a grain of salt, because you're seeing a lot of people writing articles, but at the same time you're seeing the president of the USA starting to buy it. You're starting to see Dubai police starting to use it. So again, you have to take this into consideration. It's just it can be difficult, but you need to just think for yourself when it comes to this. Again, another thing here is we're starting to see some really positive narratives around ADA bullish setup. ADA will outperform Bitcoin, a narrative. It's really, really good to see. Coming back to the next point, we're seeing businesses actively using ADA as an asset class, as ETF funds, again, recognizing the importance of ADA. And then it kind of defeats the objective of a lot of these guys, so you kind of, like I mentioned, have to be really sure when you make this decision. Again, we're starting to see ADA trend here, really, really positive to see. People are buying it, that they're looking at ADA, and ultimately they believe in the project. Again, like I mentioned, we're now starting to see spot ETFs and Grayscale with 21. It's all this money inflow. Again, they're not going to be creating ETFs if they didn't believe in the project. These are billion-pound companies, guys. They are here to make money. They're not here to lose money. They believe in the project, and they see the price being significantly higher than where it currently is now. And again, I just want to mention that this is only a fraction of what's really going on with ADA and Cardano. Obviously, there's factors such as Charles Hoskinson being the co-founder of Ethereum and the Bitcoin OS integration. But again, I don't have enough time to talk about all of this. Here to provide as much value in a short time. So you might be thinking, I don't really care about this, Tookie. Just tell me if ADA can really hit $10. And that is completely valid. And I'm going to shut up and I'm just going to explain to you now how we're going to do this. So again, to work this out, we need to benchmark this against Ethereum. So ETH in its previous run hit 552 billion market cap, which is a lot of money. We look at where ADA currently is at the moment, sitting at 25.5 or round up to 26. ADA would need to achieve a 350 billion market cap in order to hit the $10, which is around a 14x from here. Is that possible? I think it is. But personally, I wouldn't wait for that, because you would be a fool to wait for a $10, because it might not happen and you would wait for $9.50 and it could absolutely crash and you would lose all your money. So let me talk about a profit taking strategy. But before that, let me explain. From my point of view, for ADA to achieve a $10, we need everything to be perfect. So we would need quantitative easing to take place, aka the money print to start to go on. We would need the M2 money supply to increase, which we are starting to see now, which creates more liquidity, more money in the market. Again, we know more money equals higher prices. We need Bitcoin to hit $250k. Again, potentially on the cards, but not a guarantee. We need the continued approval of the ETFs, like more of a domino effect, but we are starting to see the ETF odds start to shift up in ADA's favour. We would need ADA to also maintain a 4.5% market dominance. We would need the rate cuts, because then people will be able to borrow more money and put it on more risk on assets. And again, we would need the US government to continue this stockpile accumulation. That being said, guys, like I mentioned, the $10 isn't my personal target. I plan to take profits well before these levels and gradually scaling out in 20% increments. So in my case, I'll explain to you how I'm going to be going about it. So as we go up, in this example for the last run, we would take 20% out here, because we would essentially get all the money that we invested back out and not be at any risk at this point. And then we would scale out another 20%, and then another 20%, and then another, which would mean we would 80% of our bags completely out. We've made all the money back on the number 1 and number 2. We'd be in profit on our second cash out point, and that would mean that we would be able to leave the price to go higher, because we'd taken a lot of the risk element out of that, and we'd also, in this case, be able to have a moon bag, which would mean that we would be able to sell ADA at a higher price than what we originally can, because the fact that we've already made all the money on these initial ones. So on this one, you would make your biggest portion of money, essentially, but you have eliminated all the risk before. So that would be a method, personally, that I'm going to be going about this. So hopefully, guys, this provides you some kind of value and some context to how ADA can hit $12, can hit $10. So I wouldn't wait for it. I'd be cashing out before. But I really wish you guys could take some of this value away and make a decision on your sellout points. So yeah, guys, thanks a lot.